Analyst, we're now joined by Victor Gao-Jikai, Chair Professor at Soochow University. Victor, hello there. China and LAC countries account for about 20% of the world's land area and nearly 1/3 of the global population. So how important do you think it is for the two sides to carry out cooperation, especially on human rights?
Thank you very much for having me. For China, Latin America, and Caribbean countries, promoting human rights development is one of the most important tasks facing our people. Why? Because we believe development is the hard truth, and many human rights issues can be sorted out and overcome through promoting development. Therefore, China has become the largest trading partner for many of the Latin American countries and Caribbean countries, and there is huge amount of mutual respect for the Chinese people as well as the Latin American people and the Caribbean people. And I think for these peoples and countries to explore ways to cooperate, to promote human rights development, especially the right of development, and how we can make joint efforts to uplift our people from poverty, for example, and embark on robust economic development is the challenge. And I think the track record is very good because Latin American countries traditionally were viewed by the United States as their backyard. But in more recent decades, the development of Latin American countries and Caribbean countries more and more tilt towards working together with China for mutual benefit and mutual respect. This is the basis and the foundation upon which China and Latin American countries and Caribbean countries can really cooperate closely in promoting human rights.
Right, and the report mentioned that China has practicing the view of promoting human rights through development, and more than 770 million of China's rural population have been raised out of absolute poverty. So how significant do you think China's achievements in this area are?
I would say China has uplifted more people out of abject poverty than everything that has been done since Industrial Revolution in the Western countries combined. This is a track record that no other country can match. And I think many developing countries, including Latin America and Caribbean region, want to learn how China can manage to achieve such impossible achievements. And in this respect, I think China can really share with Latin American countries and Caribbean countries how China has made huge economic transformation, but also in protecting the fundamental human rights of the Chinese people, especially our right to economic development and the right of staying away from hunger and poverty, for example, and the right to education and medical care, you name it. And I think because of similar national conditions and circumstances facing China and the Latin American countries and the Caribbean countries, we can really deal with each other on equal basis and learn from each other our experiences and expertise in achieving common development.
Right, and Victor, the report also lists some challenges that we're now facing global human rights governance, for instance, including environmental issues. How do you think human rights can be better promoted in Latin America and the Caribbean countries against the bigger background of climate change?
Well, I would say the challenge resulting from climate change is a challenge facing mankind as a whole, but for especially Caribbean island countries, the challenge is even more daunting because of the rising sea level, for example, and also the change in weather patterns impacting many Latin American countries. Therefore, I think China wants to do the right thing and also incorporating closely with Latin American countries and the Caribbean countries in doing our bit to protect environment. And this kind of environmental awareness is for the common good, not only for China and the Latin American countries, the Caribbean countries, but eventually for mankind as a whole. And in this regard, I think China wants to cooperate with all the countries, big and small, in doing collective work to protecting the environment for mankind, especially larger countries, including, for example, the United States. And China's efforts in promoting solar power, wind power, EV, you name it, are shining examples that China can share its expertise and success stories with many countries to make a joint effort to make sure that the world of the future will not be degraded by the environmental pollutions.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Victor Gao Zhikai from Soochow University. Thank you very much for your insight.
Thank you very much for having me.